Decision fatigue, procrastination. We all get it. Sometimes you're looking at the code and you don't even understand how to conceptualize the problem. Like, I don't even get what the solution would look like. That's fine. I have a 3-step method. Draft, refine, future-proof. Normally the biggest problem with code is you're trying to think of how to do it correctly. So you'll do a little bit and you'll think, oh no, it's not efficient, or that's not the best standard, and delete the whole thing, do again, I don't like this, oh, it's not right, oh. And it becomes an endless feedback loop, and you fill up the RAM in your head and you just burn out and you need to get a coffee or take a nap. It's a dangerous cycle. I think a big part of that is maybe fear of complicated systems, because me personally, I know I'm so worried I'm gonna code something that makes more work for me later, which I hate. So I'm worried that, oh, if I do this wrong, I'm gonna have to fix it later down the line. I might not be making the best decision. I'm gonna run into bottleneck. And I think new developers in particular are very hard on themselves. I'll see them do a little bit of work and they don't fully get it and they'll feel stupid and beat themselves up. That doesn't help anyone. And also what you're doing is a very hard thing. You know, you're learning a new language. It's like if you were learning French, you know, some days, oh, you're in the boulangerie, it's like, ah, je voudrais un croissant, and you're ordering and great. And then other days someone goes bonjour and you're it takes time. Don't worry about it. But anyway, this is how you fix it. Before we get started, I am not trying to sell you anything. I'm here to help and I'm happy that I can. However, this does take time out of my week, and I also pay an editor, which takes money out of my pocket. Only thing I ask in return is if you like this content and if it's actually useful for you, just drop a like. It helps me massively. Or what would be even better is if you know this content would be beneficial for someone else, send it to them. Win-win. They've got a plethora of new resources and you've made my life much easier. Thank you. I originally created this method by looking at screenwriters, interestingly enough. I think it was Stephen King and George R.R. Martin, who did Game of Thrones, were having a conversation. He's asking Stephen King, like, how do you produce so much content? And his rule was, on a day that he works, he just bangs out 6 pages. He doesn't have to like them, they don't have to be good, they just have to exist, because then you can iterate and you can work on them. And this was a similar sentiment that I found from Dan Harmon, who's the screenwriter on Rick and Morty. I think he was saying he had a conversation with his therapist saying that he procrastinates so much, so he'd wait until a deadline was coming up and then 24 hours before he'd just stay up the whole night and just bang it out. And he was saying it was a fear of every time he'd work, it just wasn't good enough. He was scared he wasn't gonna make something that was great, and he realized it just has to exist. It doesn't have to be amazing, it doesn't have to be your best work, it just needs to be in the real world. And you can work with it, you can iterate, you can make it better, or maybe you don't, but it needs to exist. Now, if anything, I actually think this approach is more important with coding, because often we might look at a solution and think we get it, but until you get in there and detangle the wires, you don't even really know what you're working with in terms of the solution or how it's going to fit into the project as a whole. So just getting something out, and then you might not even understand the problem until you do a first initial draft of it. So step 1, draft. Make it messy. Just get it done. It's got to be quick. It's not supposed to be good. Remember that. Anytime you do something you think, oh, I could do it better, that's not the time. Just code. Whatever the problem is, just get it done. The way I think about this step is you're trying to validate. You're not even trying to build. When I think of programming, I see it as being a plumber. You're connecting a bunch of pipes and hopefully the inputs go to the right outputs and you get the result that you're looking for. When you do a draft step, you're putting pipes there to see the system doesn't explode, frankly. Like, you just want to know, okay, if things sort of roughly connect and they go together, does the rest of the system work as a whole? Literally zero pressure, it's a test. It's just, can it work? The thing I'm thinking of, can it exist? Then step number 2 is refine. Now we have a working version, albeit trash. We can actually work on it. We understand what we have. The benefit of having a draft is now, from a bird's eye view, we can see all the things that are inefficient. So instead of trying to fix the inefficiencies when building, we've got it in place, we can zoom out, and it's so much easier to see all the problems or how you could do it better, or, oh, I wish I did this. Now you can. This is the time to do all that. It's optimizations, improving the efficiency of like the memory. Sometimes it's even a completely different architecture. You know, you might have taken one approach and then realize it would be so much easier if instead of doing it here, I did it somewhere else. You might even completely change what the tech is implemented. Think of the draft as like, it can't work in production. The draft is only for me. It's a visual, personal step so that I can encapsulate and understand the problem. And then think of refine as like, right, now I need to get it ready to go in actual production code. You can draft and refine as many times as you need, to be honest. In the refinement step, you might realize what I'm even doing is inefficient. Maybe I should rethink the feature that I'm building, or even where I put the feature. You might draft something else somewhere else and then do a refine step there. They just keep going, that's fine. Step 3, future-proof. Now, by this stage, stage, you should actually have working code that in theory could go in production. So congratulations. However, good code also requires tests. Don't go overboard, just put tests in that make sense, that need to be done. And also you want readability for the future. So to make it future proof, I mean, can you come back 3 months later and understand what was written there? Just on the grounds of how it was written. Is it in its simplest form so that it can be edited and changed if needed? When I ran the team at the startup that I was in, I actually wanted to get rid of documentation in general, in the sense that our code should be so obvious what it does. The documentation should explain where things are positioned and what services we integrate with. It shouldn't actually be how the code works. A bit ambitious, I know, but that's the goal that I always strive for. How obvious can I make it by like the naming of the variables and just the flow of functions? Even if you've done something smart and it's kind of clever with how something's integrated and it's one line, is it easy to read? If it's not, I personally don't think it's worth it, especially when you work on bigger projects. And then also changing anything that might adjust in the future. So for example, if you are hard coding a number, is it possible this might change in the future? I know for every use case right now, it won't, but might it change? If so, can you just make that variable dynamic? And you might not even have a proper way to implement it for now, but just make the code so it's adjustable later, which is what future proofing is. It's how much work can you do on the code to stop it breaking or needing adjusting later. Making things dynamic that are hard coded is a good step, and also just trying to be as clear and obvious with what the code does. Don't go overboard, you can only do so much. And now it should be ready for production and ready for your peers to peer review. To be fair, step 3 is more of a quality step. Step 1 and 2 is the thing that should unblock you and get you actually producing, but step 3 is still important. Remember, the draft is not real. Don't be harsh on yourself. It doesn't exist. You're whiteboarding a problem. Think of it as a mind mapping exercise. You're bringing it from your head into the real world so you can just see if it works. That's it. It's a validation. Once you started the draft, don't stop. Because it's very tempting to be halfway through it and think, oh, I could do this better. Unless what you're doing isn't going to work, don't stop. Don't redo it, don't change it. The quicker you get it down, the quicker you can do real code and feel better about yourself. Trust me, the draft is a step to make you work. It's not to be nice. That was my 3-step process for avoiding decision fatigue and procrastination with code. If you found this useful, please send it to someone else that is also struggling with this problem so that they can benefit and make more informed decisions. Thanks, guys.